Well, hey there, Myo friend, and welcome to episode number 5 of the Myo Minute. In this episode, we are going to be talking about the effects of tongue ties on children. But first of all, if you're new to me, let me introduce myself. I am Carmen Woodland. I am a passionate orofacial myofunctional therapist, which is like a physical therapist for mouth and face muscles. I work with clients all around the world to bring this highly specialized therapy to all corners of the globe for people who otherwise would not be able to do this therapy. I am the founder of Integrative Myofunctional Therapy Center for Whole Health and Education. I know it's a mouthful, and notice I said whole health, and that's because here in my practice, we really work on the whole you. We integrate a lot of great support, elite wellness solutions. My practice specifically specializes in sleep promotion, sleep disordered breathing, tongue tie rehabilitation, nutrition, digestion, TMD, disorders of the jaw or of the temporomandibular joint, tongue thrust correction, eustachian tube dysfunction, and we also collaborate with many other healthcare partners so that we're taking care of the whole you. So basically, in a nutshell, the clients that I work with really want to achieve optimum wellness. And your girl here, I'm going to gnaw through chain link to get those results for you, whether that's working with me one-on-one or participating in one of my online programs. Either way, you can tell how passionate I am about doing myofunctional therapy. So let's talk about the episode. I'm going to talk about 3 impacts of a tongue tie on a kiddo. Now, there are more. There's a lot more, trust me. Sleep, behavior, speech. Those are all areas where a tongue tie can drastically impact a child. But today I'm going to focus on 3 areas and I'm going to dive deep into those. So we're going to talk about craniofacial development, breathing, and posture, okay? And I'm going to be touching on this stuff because each of these topics really is a whole complete episode, and we'll get there in due time. So first, let's talk about craniofacial development. When your kiddo has a tongue tie, regardless of what you've been told, regardless of what you know and think, it is going to affect facial development, okay? The face is like a big puzzle, and for everything to fit correctly, it has to be able to grow correctly without anything impeding it, okay? So Dr. Stephen Lin has always talked about a stadium and the chairs, and I love this analogy because if your stadium is big enough, all of the chairs are gonna go in it nicely, okay? Like my own personal story, I did not have enough space for all of my teeth, so my tooth beautician, my conventional orthodontist, shaved down the sides of my teeth so that they would all fit into a nice U shape. Sounded like a good idea at the time, but not so much now. So if you think about that, and if we compare that with the whole stadium analogy, we're talking if your stadium gets big enough so that both butt cheeks can sit in a chair rather than just shaving them down so that one butt cheek can fit, terrible idea, right? So if the stadium is not big enough, the chairs are not going to go in nicely. The other thing is, and we'll talk about breathing here in just a minute, but mouth breathing causes vertical facial growth, so a long face. So if you think about that stadium, how are the chairs going to be going nicely into the stadium if the bottom is sinking? Clearly something's going to be warped, okay? So a tongue tie, when it holds back that facial development, the mandible is held back, often the maxilla, which is the most important bone in the face. The mandible, which is the upper jaw, or the maxilla is the upper jaw, the mandible is the lower jaw. Those drive the shape of the face, okay? The maxilla being the most important. It's going to pull the face forward. So oftentimes what I see with my clients is they have this chin that's just held back. And if you just think about a tongue tie holding that facial development back, it's easier to get a visual. Now, with that said, also when there's a tongue tie, the tongue is not comfortably resting in the roof of the mouth where it ideally should be. The tongue should live tip to tail in the roof of the mouth, hugging up against the palate. So it should have a contact all the way, a seal all the way across. So when a kiddo is tongue-tied, the tongue is low, so it's living in the floor of the mouth, and so we start to see a very narrow arch, a long face. That narrow arch also leaves a big old speed bump in the nose, which affects the development of the septum, the sinuses, all of this part of the face. Okay, so it definitely has an effect. So the thing is a tongue tie affects the facial development. Mouth breathing affects the facial development. Eating a crappy standard American diet full of soft, refined foods, not chewing. So chewing causes the forward expansion of the face. Another thing that has become really popular these days, you guys, is drinking our meals. And this is also drinking our meals for children who are really in that critical growth phase of how their face is going to develop. So that's really going to affect it. So that should pretty much wrap up all I wanted to talk about with craniofacial development. Let's talk about breathing. Most tongue-tied kiddos are mouth breathers. This tells me a couple things. They're constantly in fight or flight. So when you're mouth breathing, as soon as your mouth opens, you tend to be in that sympathetic nervous system response rather than parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is your rest and digest. It's your calming. Yes, we need both, but most tongue-tied kiddos are mouth breathers, okay? So that tongue tie is impacting them in that area. They're sick a lot. They don't have any nitric oxide that is in the sinuses, so they're not cleaning the house. Nitric oxide is bactericidal, it's virucidal, it helps clean all the air that you're breathing in, okay? Also, kiddos who are mouth breathing are under oxygenated because that nitric oxide helps the oxygen uptake into the lungs. They often have trouble focusing and learning, which leads to behavior issues. So I'm not going to dive into that, but that is definitely a connection. And then I already mentioned that vertical facial growth. So that long, narrow, which goes back to the stadium. If you don't have enough room in your stadium, the teeth can't come in correct, okay? I really should have touched on, in craniofacial development, the orthodontic concern. So when I talked about my orthodontist having to shave my teeth down, he did that because I didn't have enough room in my stadium. So if we have a kiddo who has a tongue tie, it's not taken care of, then the craniofacial structure is not going to be big enough. That stadium's not going to be big enough. And then you can bet your bottom dollar that that kiddo is going to have crowding, probably need 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, it's hard to say, rounds of ortho. And when I say 3 or 4, that's generally through their lifetime because I'm meeting older women now in their 60s and 70s that are having braces, some of them for the 4th and 5th time, okay? Breathing affects posture. So I'm going to talk about posture next, but how you breathe affects your posture, okay? Your posture affects your breathing. Overall, you guys, good breathing is a portal to health. So it's really important. I get a lot of parents who really want to compartmentalize what they want to help their kiddo with, what they want to help fix. They want to fix the tongue thrust. But to fix the tongue thrust, we need to fix the posture. We need to fix the swallowing. We need to fix the tongue position. And all of these things. So I think it's really important to go away from that silo mentality thought process to a team. Okay, lots of pieces of the puzzle. So on that, let's talk about posture. I think this is probably one of the areas that really knocks parents' socks off. Like, what? How am now I have to worry about posture with my kiddo? The important thing to remember is the tongue anchors the whole body. That is huge. So when the tongue is not up where it needs to be in the roof of the mouth, the entire front of the body collapses, and which affects the back of the body. So a comparison that I like to share with parents is if we as adults stick our belly out and we just let it hang out, you can bet your bum that it's affecting the back side of you. It's affecting your lower back. It's affecting your pelvic tilt, so oftentimes we let our gut hang out and we get that duck butt in the back. So the same thing with your tongue. It's the rudder of the body. It is that anchor. And so when the tongue is low, the rest of you collapses forward. We also know that a tongue tie is a postural connective tissue issue. So the shoulders roll forward, that juts the head out. So we have some forward head posture, compresses the diaphragm so we can't breathe correctly. And it affects all the way down, you guys. It's like a domino. Now, going back to talking about ortho, the important thing to remember when you're thinking about your kiddo and posture and tongue ties and facial development, all of those things, is it is important to correct the postural structure before you anchor things in with ortho. This again is really hard for parents, especially if they're sitting in front of me talking to me and their kiddo already has braces. You're having an orthodontist move everything into position where they want it, for beauty or attractiveness. That's where it's going to be. But what about the rest of you? It's almost like you're moving in the furniture before you're done building the house. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. But it's really important to fix the structure before you really start finalizing those other details. Tongue and lips are part of the postural system. They're also part of the breathing system. So look at, I'm tying everything in together here. And that's definitely a pun intended. And then last, the posture is connected to a correct swallow. So one of the things I work on with clients is a corrected swallow. Well, guess what? I can't get there until we get here. So this process of myofunctional therapy is like a big flow chart. If yes, go here, and if no, go here. So that's why it's really important to work with somebody who is very experienced and is going to help you put that comprehensive health team together, so hey, this is what we need. Physical therapy, huge piece of this puzzle, which most parents don't even think about, or they're really confused by it because some adults think that physical therapy is for like getting rear-ended in a car accident, that kind of stuff, or having major surgery. They don't see it as part of, as an integral part of this process. So that is it, you guys. I've thrown a lot at you. Let's talk about where you can learn more, anywhere that you consume my social media. If you have questions, remember, you can book an exam. I only comment on cases that I have examined and know something about. If you have a general question that you want me to answer in a video like this, email me thetonguetrainer@gmail.com, and then we'll get that on the docket to cover that. The best place to start, if you're a parent here going, holy cow, I don't know what to do, a couple things. Number one, obviously an exam is the place to start. So you and I get to sit face to face. We get to talk about what's going on, who else we need on the team. I can start giving you some guidance there when I actually know something about the case. Sometimes I am not the first case, or I'm not the first place to start. Sometimes we need sleep studies. Sometimes we need allergists. There's a lot of other things that come into play before being ready to start myofunctional therapy. And another place that you can also go is the root cause resolution video or workbook. Again, website, you can find that link. Instagram, you can find that with the link in the bio. The root cause talks about 6 areas that parents should really pay attention to when it comes to the craniofacial development of their kiddo. So that's huge. And it also has a workbook with it and lots of things where you can check the boxes to see where your child has concerns. So that is it. Long episode. This is not going to be the last time that we talk about this stuff, you guys, because this is the foundation of what I do, and it is the most important. Oftentimes I get asked, do you think it's more important to work with adults or kiddos? And without a doubt, it is most important to work with kiddos because they're in that critical, that time-sensitive growth window. So their face is going to be developed 90% by age 10 to 12. So I want to get a hold of kiddos and help them make changes before it's too late. So that is it for today. If you found this useful, please drop me a comment, give me a thumbs up, share it with a friend. You might know somebody who needs this information, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.